What does your first day out of FTO look like? Let's discuss. Hey, before we get started, I have two gifts in the description for you. One is the Getting Started workshop. It's going to walk you through every phase of the hiring process. Plus, there's some hidden bonuses I think you're going to like. Next is a coaching call with any member of the team or even myself where we can discuss your law enforcement hiring journey, your process to becoming a successful law enforcement officer. Now, the first day of FTO. This one's going to be a little bit more lighthearted, right? And the sheer fact is, it's kind of comical watching a police trainee go to a police officer one or whatever they're going to be. So we'll quick break it down. We've done this before, but how we rank officers or individuals coming through the hiring process and through their law enforcement journey is you start off as a police candidate or applicant, but a police candidate. And then from there, once you get hired on as a with a police department and you have to go through the academy, you then go into a police recruit, right? You're in the police academy, you're a recruit in the academy. And then from there, you go into a police trainee, right? So you're in what's called a field training officer program, FTO program. Now, FTO, if you hear someone refer to, hey, I'm an FTO, that's a field training officer, which means they're the ones certified to teach other police trainees in the field, right? You're in the field training or you're on the job training. That's what that is for. I'm a big advocate of 4 month FTO programs or longer. The 1, 2 months, those are fine. I just don't think it's quite enough all the time. And I think you should rotate FTOs, but I'm not going to get into that on this one, right? Your first day, you could come out of the academy and field training is meant to take everything you learned in the academy and put it into a practical application, dealing with actual members of the public. No individuals that are role players, nothing that's staged. This is 100% real interactions, but you have kind of a lifeline there as your field training officer is there to make sure that you don't make any mistakes that one are going to get you hurt or anyone else hurt, as well as something that's going to violate any member of the community's rights. That's a critical one. That's the one I see a lot of individuals get hung up on once they get out of their field training officer program. But here's what a new police officer looks like once they complete FTO. You will forget everything about radio communications. You'll forget everything about navigations. You'll forget everything about lights and sirens. You'll miss radio communications left and right. It's quite comical. You're always out there especially if you're in a patrol position, you're always out there trying to get the most traffic stops. Don't do that. Relax. There's plenty of traffic stops out there, and you don't have to force it. And here's what I mean by it. You're like, Frank, if someone's breaking the law, we need to stop. Yes. Just remember spirit of the law versus letter of the law. And here's what I mean by that. If someone puts on their blinker 80 feet away from the turn, and by the way, if you're wondering how far 80 feet is, 100 feet is a third of a football field, right? So it's pretty good distance, but say they're 80 feet and say it has to be 100 feet, right? They have to put it at 100 or 120 feet, but they put on their turn signal to turn. They made a complete stop wherever they were turning if they were required to, and then they proceeded through the turn with their turn indicator or their turn signal on. You don't have to stop them for inappropriate use or misuse of a signaling device. No. If you merge into a lane and you don't use your turn signal, and then the person in front of you merges into the lane and doesn't use their turn signal in front of you, and you're a police officer, and you turn on your lights and sirens to stop them, if unless I mean there's no blanket statements here. There could be a reason, but and you do that and you stop them just for that, and they didn't do anything unsafe. They did it in the same manner in which you did. Don't stop them for that. You're setting a bad example. Matter of fact, I hope they report you for that, right? Don't go out there and try to be, most traffic stops in the department. I want you to go out there. I want you to do your job. But trust me, there's real crime going on every single day. There's some real traffic infractions going on every single day. People blowing by school buses while kids crossing the street. People blowing through work locations or work areas on highways. Why men and women are out there working just to provide for their family, and people doing 15, 20 miles through work zones, like it's nothing, putting everyone's life at risk. Sure, go after those people. Someone over here blowing a red light and almost causing a motor vehicle collision. Yes, go get them. Someone speeding dramatically. Yes, go get them. Make sure that you're not out there try what we call reaching, right? Where you're out there trying to, oh man, this person stopped 2 feet past the stop sign, 2 feet past the stop sign. Their bumper's 2 feet past it. They're not in the walkway or anything. They just stopped, 2 feet past it. They don't need to be stopped for failure to follow a signaling device, which would be the stop sign. I'm sure you have stopped at them. Don't ever forget that you were a normal citizen, right? You're still a normal citizen, but now you have certain authority, right, to go out and enforce law. But don't forget that you're still just a normal citizen, and I'm sure you've made these mistakes in your life too. So that's number one. Don't go out there and get crazy and say, "Oh, I'm off on my own." Number two is what I see more common, and which is you just freeze and you forget everything. You forget how to talk to people. At the end of FTO, you were super confident. You were talking to people. You were giving people directions. You were doing, you were getting out of the vehicle. You were doing public contacts, right? Not law enforcement interactions, but just public contacts or citizen assist is what we call them in some of my departments. And you're out there, helping and you're engaging. You're charismatic and you're trying to be helpful, right? You're trying to be a professional and positive representation of the law enforcement profession and community. Great. But then you get in the car and you're driving to work that day and you're, oh man, I'm going to crush it out there today. I'm going to do so much good police work. Then you get the car and then you get out of the car and you double check all your gear again and make sure you got all your gear. And then you do another vehicle inspection on top of the one you already did. Next thing you know, calls are piling up because you're over here triple and quadruple checking everything, which is fine. I want you to be squared away. But procrastination or paralysis by analysis is what you're running into at that point in time. So at some point in time, you got to get out there and do the job. I get it. You're going to be nervous, right? Once you make full-fledged police officer, which chances are you're probably actually still on probation, which is another thing contributing to your nervousness. Just get out there and just start, making your presence known and looking for criminal activity, and then engage with your training knowledge. Here's the one thing for number two, for your nervousness and your almost fear of going out there being alone. And we'll kind of unpack this a little bit. Why some officers get kind of fearful when they're released off FTO. You always have your trainers, like your FTO and your sergeant and everyone to run things by. And you can do it on a public radio channel. You can nowadays with cell phones, you can text. Don't do that while you're driving. Follow all the laws that you're enforcing, please. Nothing drives me more insane than seeing an officer just chatting on their cell phone, or worse, using their CAD, computer aided dispatch, in their vehicle while they're driving. They're like, "Oh, I'm not distracted." I'm like, "Okay, you're not trained to that level." So just kind of keep that in mind. Just pull over. Some people are over here sitting in the comments saying, "Well, what if I'm running a plate while I'm driving?" Well, then just use dispatch. Hey, dispatch, I got a plate to run when ready. And then that way you can focus on driving, because you know what's going to happen. One of these times you're going to rear end that vehicle that you're running. And then whatever you're trying to catch them for, you're not going to be thinking about that anymore, because you're going to be wondering if you're going to lose your job, right? How much you're going to have to pay to repair a government vehicle. And then two, if they're going to wind up suing you. So just a little quick caveat. But you're out there, you're kind of nervous, you're a little bit fearful, and you have every right to be, right? I'm not going to say you should be, but you have every right to be. You're nervous and you're fearful that you don't want to make a mistake, right? You don't want to make a mistake that poorly reflects you, that poorly reflects the department, or something that can get you in trouble, of course, right? You also don't want to make a mistake that hurts you, another officer, or the community, right? That's obvious. You're also nervous about, doing something that could go against what's actually within the scope of your authority, right? A lot of law enforcement, that's what you see them get in trouble for these days. They go outside the scope of their authority. They try to push a ticket or something that they shouldn't, because maybe ego or they feel insulted. Don't be that. Just be the humble professional. It's okay. All right. At the end of the day, chances are in 5 years or 2 years or 1 year, if depending on how many you might not even remember a single traffic stop where You drop the person's, oh, this is my favorite. You drop the person's ID card down your seat. All right, so you have their driver's license, and you drop it down the seat, and you spend the next 20 minutes not looking them up or writing the ticket, but trying to get the ID card. And then you're rushing back to get them back their ID card, and chances are you probably didn't even do what you were supposed to. But you're so nervous they're going to report you for, illegal detainment, which, I mean, you could articulate like, hey, it's embarrassing. Yes, if you go to court and you say, to the judge or to whoever, sir, ma'am, it wasn't that I was illegally detaining them. I dropped their ID and I couldn't access it again. So as soon as I got it back, I completed it within the time frame and the capability that I could with that additional issue that came into play. You wouldn't get in trouble for that. Once again, going back to articulation, um, you're going to forget how to use lights and sirens. You're there's going to be a lot that you mess up on. My favorite is you make a traffic stop and you're on the traffic stop and then you never clear from the traffic stop, even though like the traffic stop was over 15 minutes ago and you kicked them and you're back out on patrol and you're writing your first ticket by yourself and it looks horrible because you're just writing where you're think hopefully you got a CAD and you can type it up. But but you do it or you make a mistake on the ticket. Oh, that always happens, always happens. But these are all the things that they don't tell you about, right? You'll learn about these in FTO, but this is the funny part of after FTO. And then you're sitting there and you're trying to write a ticket and you're making a mistake on that, or you put the ticket somewhere and like you're getting out of your vehicle and you drop it or and it starts blowing away and you look silly trying to chase a ticket, right? That's why you never tear off a ticket. Hopefully your FTO chain teaches you this. Usually if you're handwriting a tickets on carbon paper, never tear it off until you're sitting in front of them, right? Or until like have them sign the whole book. Or you hold on to the book and have them sign the book if you're still using paper and carbon copy tickets. But yeah, don't tear it off beforehand because Lord knows if it's a windy day and it blows away, that's always funny to see a police officer running around chasing a ticket as it blows across a main road or something like that. Hilarious. And you have to get it because it has all their personal information on it. So, oh, so many comical things. Okay, so going back to that, right? You're trying to write that ticket and you make a mistake or you drop it. It happens, right? Just apologize to them. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, um, especially if you're writing them a warning, they're not going to be too mad at you. But if you're writing them a warning, you say, I apologize. That took so long. This is my first day as this is my first day patrolling without a partner. So normally I have them to cover a couple other things. So I apologize. Is it is it a little embarrassing? Yes. But is it professional enough to just apologize to standard member of the community? Yes. We're allowed to say I'm sorry. All right. Maybe some legal teams and some departments will say never say that, but you're allowed to say you're sorry, right? Hey, I apologize that took so long. I dropped your ID and I had to fish it out. Hey, this is not a ticket. This is a written warning saying that I contact you about this. There's no fine. I'm just going to give you this slip. Please sign here. It's not an admission to guilt. It's just saying that you received this warning. And once again, no fine associated with no court, just a written warning from me. Please slow down. Perfectly acceptable. And once again, I apologize for making it take longer. I'm sorry for delay, but once again, just please, we're trying to keep everyone safe out here. Just slow down. Be humble, be professional about it. It's okay. What else do I see? Oh, going back to the clearing the call. I'm all over the place here. Going back to clear the call, you write that ticket, it's 15 minutes later, you're already getting ready to make another traffic stop, or this is my favorite. You key up the radio and we're thinking, okay, he's finally going to clear. That took him a long time, but hey, it's his first day. Maybe he was just being extra careful. And say it's me, and hey, whatever unit or Magaha to dispatch, go, hey, so show me on a traffic stop, First and Main Street, blue four-door sedan, blue four-door Honda Civic, license plate 123 ABC, and they get back. Uh, Unit one or I'm assuming you cleared and finished that last traffic stop and you start turning bright red and sweating which only throws you off for the next traffic stop because you're out there thinking, I didn't clear from my last traffic stop. And little do you know, you weren't paying attention to the radio. This is another good one. And they actually have units rolling your way to your old location to do a welfare check on you as an officer because you haven't been communicating. That's another thing. If you don't stay in communication when you're out on a law enforcement contact, dispatch is going to ping you, or you're required to ping dispatch every now and then to let them know, hey, you're still, code four or whatever code you decide to use, or whatever, terminology that that department requests you to use. And you're going out and you're doing that. And yeah, it's pretty comical. It's like I said, it's pretty fun to watch. My favorite is watching an officer lose an ID or chase it. This is another good one. You're going to forget to give someone back their ID. And they're going to be so nervous about getting a ticket or not getting a ticket that they're just going to want to leave. And you're going to forget to give them their registration back, their ID back, or their insurance. And your supervisor is going to make you fix that. Yeah, so that, I mean, hopefully they don't live too far away. If you stop someone that is commuting, like in between states or through town or whatever, that's a good one. You can always mail it back. Some departments actually have a policy against that, right? Because once again, personal information and stuff along those lines. Um, yeah, that's it's fun. It happens. It happens. I'm telling you, it's always fun to see. Usually it gets caught, during FTO. So usually it happens in the beginning of FTO, and your FTO officer is looking for it, and they're like, "Hey, make sure you're paying attention. Give them their insurance back." Or you say, "Have a nice day," and as you're walking back, you're not thinking about, you're just double checking, but your FTO officer is up there saying, "Hey, don't leave just yet. Okay, I apologize. I think he forgot to give you a document." And then you're walking back thinking, "Oh yeah, and then your FTO comes next to you and say, where's their insurance?" And you have it in your clipboard right in front of you. You're like, "Oh," and then you turn around to make sure they didn't pull away. So many funny things to watch. Um, be professional, be respectful. Sometimes you get a good FTO that really wants to mess with you, or you get well, I won't get into that too much, but you get an FTO that wants to mess with you. And they'll let you just go out there and completely tank the whole thing, and then they'll come up and know that they're not going to write that person a ticket. Now, they did commit an actual violation, but they're going to give them a warning, and they know that they're not going to allow you to write them a ticket, and they'll use it as a training point. They'll let you completely jack everything up, and then they'll go back to the individual and say, "Hey, they're new, they're in training. I apologize for the inconvenience. You were speeding, but we need you to slow it down. We're not going to write you a ticket, but I'm just testing him. I'm sorry if it's inconveniencing you. He's still got to go through all the proper procedures. I'll try to make it not take too long, but I do need to test it." Most of the people, hopefully, if they're not in too much of a rush, are usually pretty inclined to help out when they find out, "Hey, I'm not getting a ticket, and all I got to do is help train this new rookie officer." But then when your FTO isn't there, you're on your own, and you still make all those mistakes because you're going to be nervous. All right. And a little scared, probably. Um, but yeah, getting into the last thing about the fearful aspect. Some officers get super fearful because you're on your own, right? And throughout the academy training and your FTO training and what's going on in the world, you're going to get nervous, right? Traffic stops are super dangerous for law enforcement officers, whether that be due to vehicle accidents, whether that be to threats to an officer, right? Because the unknown, when you're approaching a vehicle, you don't know if that individual is armed and wants to harm you or anyone else. Uh, but yeah, I understand. Sometimes, I started off as the backcountry law enforcement ranger, which means I was on foot hours away at times. So if I ever got into things back there, completely on my own, people were hours away. There's nothing, no one that could come help me. So there's a lot that, you you should have a healthy amount of fear, and that's kind of hard. I don't even know if I'm articulating that right at this point, but you should have a healthy amount of fear where you understand that you need to be vigilant and have situational awareness, but at the same point in time, you need to remain professional. Not everyone out there is out to hurt you, and you can't treat everyone as such, right? Remember, you volunteered for this job. No one forced you, no one held a gun to your head and said you had to do this job. You volunteered for it. So, that being said, you need to take that with the consideration it comes with. You don't get to go run up there and treat everyone as if they're violent criminals and make felony traffic stops. And you don't get to do that, and you don't get to, you know, violate people's rights, or you don't get to, skirt around, how you can like make someone's life harder because of the authority you possess. Oh, well, if I'm staying within, no, no, not if I'm staying within. If you have to say that, you either need to fix yourself immediately or quit doing the job, because it is what it is. You're out there, you do the job, and you're done, right? That's it. But it it's good to be vigilant. It's good to have situational awareness, and you need to have that. And sometimes if you're working as a rural police officer or rural deputy sheriff, and you make a traffic, sometimes you are, sometimes you don't have backup within, 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe even longer, depending on where you're, a couple hours, like it was with me with my first department. So keep that in mind. All right. Just don't let, don't, don't let fear control you. You need to have a healthy amount, and there is a healthy amount, right? You should be vigilant enough to make you vigilant, but not so much that it stops you from properly performing your duties in an ethical and safe manner. So there's so much more to this. Um, I don't mean to end on a more serious note, because it was a more lighthearted, and I love seeing new trainees get out there, and usually we'll position some senior officers in sectors next to their patrol to come help them out if they struggle. If you have a good supervisor, he or she will do that. I've seen good supervisors. I had one where she would always, every time you had a new trainee, uh, or new officer getting out there off FTO, she would always put some really good senior officers that were on shift that day in different sectors to be close by to help them out if need be. And it saved her the trouble of always having to go out there and do it too. So, smart play. But anyway, I hope this helps. Remember, if you want those gifts, are down in the description, the Getting Started workshop, and then the coaching call with any member of the team or even myself if you'd like to discuss your hiring process and your success in the law enforcement career. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.